And then, as I said, you want to have a blanket handy that you can roll up. So I've already rolled mine into, or folded rather. I folded it into a strap or strip or a sausage like this. And I'm gonna start us off lying on the belly. So we'll start with a belly shavasana. And last week we were playing with this, moving our awareness from the outer body to the inner body. And we kind of continue with that, but now more in the framework of, in yoga, there's this idea of layers of our being called koshas. And so it goes from the grossest level, the level of the body, towards a more subtle and subtle and subtle level. So it'll kind of be similar, but maybe, some there's a little bit more of a framework to witness these different layers, but also see how it's all interconnected, and they not separate, these different layers of our being. So we'll start with the grossest level, and in translation it would be also called like a food body, but it's the physical body, and it's Annamaya Kosha is the name of it. And so that's why I'm also coming very close to the earth, kind of like the earth element representing that physicality of us. So we're going to take the blanket, and it again goes underneath belly button, a little bit lower, the lower part of the abdomen. And you can decide if, make it comfortable. So if the blanket feels like it's pressing uncomfortably into the belly, then make that roll a little bit smaller. If you have something to put under your ankles, that can feel nice, but we don't stay super long, so don't worry about it if you don't have it, like a bolster or a cushion. So when you lie down, that might be nicer for the knees. I often find when my feet are just a little bit supported by something. And as you lie down, you can take your arms to the side, see how that feels, like cactus arms on the sides, and turning one ear down, and we'll stay for a couple of minutes having our beginning meditation here. And at one point I'm gonna invite you to turn your head to the opposite side. And if you need a pillow under the head or anything that makes it more comfortable. And I feel slight pressure in the abdomen. So we did quite a bit of this work in the beginning of the COVID time for our nervous system. And it's always good to return to this. That lower abdomen gentle pressure is something that works with our nervous system very directly. So allow yourself some soft breaths, and let's tune into now that first layer. Said Annamaya Kosha, the physical body. Direct translation would be food body. But let yourself connect to the shape and form and bones as they lie on earth, and also kind of sense into the solidity here. While the breath is in the abdomen, soft, and there's a little bit of pressure there in the lower belly. Emphasize that breath into the abdomen if you can. And feel into the creature of the body and see how much you can invite it here to relax. Your feet are flopping, your legs are heavy. Let
Letting your awareness really sense the contact points to the ground. Sense the effect that gravity has on the physical body as it draws it down. Maybe see if there are any points of resistance anywhere that you can notice very clearly. And let us stay with the physical body. Well, obviously breath is happening. That's the Pranamaya Kosha right there. But see if you can return feeling the shape for now. How is your body today? What are there some messages that you can pick up now that you've become still? Now that more of you is available, and you could gradually, slowly turn your head to the opposite side. See how that side of the neck feels. And we can always turn to these physical parts of the body, encouraging, for example, the jaw to soften a little bit more. Sensing the shoulders and spending a moment there, awareness, shoulders, relaxing, and sense of melting. Feel your hips. Feel your legs, your body. And then, as I often do, I want to give you choices so that part of the practice is that you tune in. So feel the physical body and see if it is really loving this right now. Then please just stay as you are. Option is to come for just maybe minute and a half, 2 minutes to come into a Sphinx pose. So coming into a gentle back bend. Maybe the physical body is saying that you've kind of spent a bit of time today kind of hunched forward. That's why you might want to come to a back bend, or maybe you want to bring a little bit more of that vitality and kind of energizing posture in, or maybe the body is saying, I'm tired, and just you feel that staying in that belly shavasana with mild stimulation around the navel is just the right thing for you right now. And if you've come to Sphinx, I like that blanket still underneath the belly, that little pressure there. If you don't like that, then feel free to slide the belly away. If there's any variations of Sphinx that you want to take here, then feel free. We'll spend, as I said, about another minute. So these 5 koshas can often kind of like a prism through which we can better understand the workings and interactions of our consciousness, our feelings, our breathing, our perception, our physiology.
So the layers of mind and body and consciousness and how they interact. And we're starting with the physical body. The bones, the muscles, the tendons, the organs, the dense matter that makes the body. Really feeling the weight of your bones. And then if you have risen a bit higher into the backbendy shape, let yourself melt for another moment down. And then take your time as we transition, and we transition to wide knee child's pose, and we still stay with the physical body with that layer, so we keep feeling into it. Now inviting a little bit of a stretchy sensation into the inner thighs. Your blanket, again, you can put it to side if there's in any way that you need to use it here, like a cushion under your knees, or you can place it between your buttocks and the heels, letting the forehead either come down onto the ground or put something underneath your forehead. Letting the shoulders, arms stay passive and relaxed. And letting the weight of your hips now release, release, release. There should be no pain in the knee. So changing positions until you find a place where there's mild sensation, inner thighs. And there might be a little bit more physical sensation maybe that you can begin to feel here in this shape rather than the one on the belly. So turn your attention towards the sensations of the physicality of you. So we're training our awareness to move through these different layers. And you do it anyhow in all of the practices. But we'll just kind of take our time today. And one of the ways, the simplest everyday ways to take care of the physical body, to ensure the health of the physical body, is to really pay attention to the food that you eat. So it's full of prana, full of life. So if you want the physical layer to be full of life, you want to really eat food that's full of prana, alive. Another few rounds of breath here. And begin to sense your breathing here. So the second layer, the energy body, Pranamaya Kosha. The easiest way to kind of get a sense of that is the breath. And sense now we've been kind of in that stillness. And sense now the inner movement, and we'll accompany that inner movement of the breath with a little bit of outer movement in a moment. But begin already here to sensing into the breath body, the energy body, the fluid body, the circulation. And then in your own time, transition to all fours and bring, as I said, a little bit of movement in. And I encourage you to experiment. Make movements like how small can they be? Maybe you start really small and slow and sensitive. Do the movements, can you sense, do they want to be up and down for the spine, or do you automatically kind of want to bring just a free flow in and just letting the body sense into its own fluidity? So awareness on the breath, maybe kind of sensing the pulse, not necessarily heartbeat pulse, but kind of a tempo or rhythm, a pulse that you can follow with your movement, and sensing the fluid body. A couple of more rounds. You could experiment with bigger movement or stay with the smaller. And staying connected with your breath. We're kind of bringing in a few postures, kind of like a twist and a side bend, so that we are helping the body to breathe better. So when you're on all fours, we're going to swing the legs over to the right side so that you can come and sit onto your left outer hip, left outer thigh. We'll suspend a few rounds here. So I'm swinging the legs over to the right and sitting myself down over to the left. I'm mirroring you. And then taking the left hand out a couple of times, brushing over into a side bend. And again, staying really fluid. So sensing into a rhythm that works, as I said, and that movement guided through something internal. And what we're doing is we're stretching into the ribs, the lung, the diaphragm. So we're really helping ourselves to take better breaths. At one point, let yourself stay in that side bend. Turn your head a little bit so that you're not letting your neck just stay stuck somewhere in habit. And then here, curl in a little bit. Find an angle like a diagonal line, and then curl up a little bit. And again, just find your own trajectory with this. Just a bit of exploration as we spend a bit of time with the Pranamaya Kosha, the level of the body that corresponds to breath, to energy. But also I think I kind of find it like the symbol of that is mobility and movement. So that's why I'm bringing a little bit of that in, all right? And then pause somewhere for a couple of breaths. Feel into the side body. Again, just check where is it good for the neck. And then I'm going to start to roll that left hand down. And I'm going to walk myself back to all fours. And bring in small twisting movement first before we come into holding the twist. So the same left hand, I'm going to lift the elbow up. So I'm going to bend into the elbow and rather than lifting the whole arm, I'm going to lift the elbow so the upper part of your torso, your spine is twisting. And then as you exhale, I'm threading it under, but I'm not going to even go all the way. I'm going to slide it through and I'm going to broaden the upper back, curl the chin in slightly. So I'm more want to feel here into the back of the lungs. And then I move between the two. I'm going to lift the elbow up towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to slide the left hand underneath the right, but just a little bit. I'm not even bringing that shoulder down. I'm just widening and broadening into the back of the lungs. And a few more times. So again, getting a bit of more mobility into the upper spine and the rib cage. Helping loosening up anything that's obstructing the breath. And so sliding elbow up, that could be an inhale. As you slide the arm through, that could be an exhale. And then at one point you come to a pause. So it could be that you stay on all fours and that left hand is going to slide under and the chin comes down, side of your left side of your head comes down. If that's not working for you at all, you could also come to wide knee child's pose, so you can set the buttocks back towards the heels and twist from there, left hand under, right hand in front. So whichever works. And then feel the breath here. So now you've come from movement back to stillness in the physical shape. But let your attention now stay on that. It translated, Kosha can be translated most often, is translated to like a sheath or a cover. Something, that covers or folds, and it's going to that layer of breath body, energy body, Pranamaya Kosha. Your respiratory system, your nervous system, your lymphatic system, your immune system. And feel the pulse here, feel the movement, the rhythm here, even when you're still. And obviously the shape that you've taken with your physical body is affecting the breath. And your breath is affecting how the physical body feels, responds, reacts. Keep softening the outer body however much is possible. Keep sensing into the movement of the breath. Three more rounds. And then bringing your right hand in front of your face, pressing down, rising back up to all fours. And again, just coming to a tiny bit of movement from here. Might be small, might be bigger, might be up and down, circular, snaky movement. Just a few rounds. And then we're going to swing the legs over to the left side so that you can sit onto, is that right? Yeah, sit onto your right outer hip. And so similarly, get yourself situated here and then introduce that side bend and feel into the ribs and the lungs on the side. Feel the rhythm of the breath. Let yourself really sense your intake, the breath coming in, and your exhale. I think, Katarina, you're going to lift the other arm up. Yeah, and then exactly, yeah. And then at one point you're going to pause in that side bend, and I invite you to find a diagonal line and maybe then rolling back up. Unless you're really loving that diagonal line, then you could also pause there. But see if you can feel the side body. Imagine so your ribs, your diaphragm at the bottom of the ribs there. And so gently pulling on those tissues, stretching and just helping the breathing mechanism of the body. At one point, taking a side stretch, maybe in stillness for a couple of rounds, turning your chin, trying different angles for the neck. And then my right arm is going to start to lower in that diagonal line down, and I'm going to walk back to all fours, and then coming into that twisty flow. So right elbow lifts, right hand threads under left, but not all the way down. And I want to really find that broadness in the upper back. So as I'm curling it under, it's less about twist and more about broadening the back of the lungs and finding that space there at the back of the heart. So couple of rounds, exploring through movement, exploring through breath, exploring through fluidity and softness. And then eventually you'll pause and you'll slide maybe that hand all the way through and your buttocks stay on top of the knees, or you're going to send your buttocks back to the heels and take the twist in from wide knee child's pose, if from all fours, if it doesn't work for you from there. And as you enter the stillness, you still keep sensing into the subtle movements. Maybe it's breath, maybe you can sense energy, maybe you feel this subtle pulse of expanding, contracting, the so-called spanda, as you sense the kind of the energetic movement in the body. Pranamaya Kosha also includes the so-called 5 winds, 5 vayus, the way energy flows in, the intake, the prana, the outtake, out movement, apana. The samana, that is around the navel center, where energy comes from outward, from extremities, from periphery, coming in towards the center. Then there's the opposite, the energy from the center moving out to the periphery, Vijnana. And then we have upward moving energy, Udana. So 5 vayus, how energy moves, organizes. Give it another breath or 2. And then slowly bring the hand back in front of your chest, the left hand, and press yourself up to your seat. And again, just a tiny bit of exploration here. Just a little bit. And then reach for your blanket and spread it out again, but this time behind the upper back. So we've done that in the last couple of weeks, a little bit of elevation for the back of the heart. Maybe a pillow under the head if you want, and we'll take a pranayama. So instead of movement, we're gonna be still in the posture, and then we'll work with the energy through a little breath control. So I'm gonna have my blanket roll, just the top end of it at the bottom tips of the shoulder blades, and the arms go out to the side. And again, feel free to unfold it and make it less or make it more. I'm going to spread my arms to the sides, and shoulders are above the blanket roll, and I like my head a little bit supported, so it's not, my chin is not lifting too high up. And you could have the feet on the mat, or you could take a butterfly. You could have the soles of the feet together and while you're here, get a little bit of a stretch for the hips. So let yourself get settled. And the breath that we do here is sometimes called a box breath, or we're going to inhale, hold the breath, exhale, hold the breath out. And we do all of that for equal amounts. So I'm going to guide you just for one round because I want you to find your own ratio. So I'm going to right now, for the example, use the ratio of 4 count inhale, 4 count hold, 4 count exhale, 4 count hold at the bottom. But if your breath is different, you're going to use a different ratio. So empty your breath out and then begin a slow inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold the breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling, continue on your own and count for yourself. At no stage should there be a struggle for breath. So you choose your count so all of those 4 parts are comfortable. And keep feeling into the inner body in all of those stages. The inflow, the accumulation, the outflow, and then the void, the emptiness at the bottom. About 1 more minute. And if holding the breath in any way strains you today, that it's not working, then just make inhale, exhale, even count and stay with that and skip the holding. Do 1 more round, and next time when you exhale and return to normal, natural, effortless breathing, sense the state of the physical body. Can you sense your breath body or your energy body? And then we slowly begin to turn the attention to noticing our thoughts, feelings, emotions. So all of the perceptions that we kind of get in, that come in through our 5 senses. The mental body, the Manomaya Kosha. Just noticing what's moving through the mind screen. You're not changing, you're not trying to make anything go away, but our awareness now moving into another layer of our being. Couple of more breaths in this shape. Any impressions? And you might, if you have your knees wide and open, you might want to bring your hands to help the legs to come up, for the soles of the feet to come onto the mat, and we'll roll over to one side and then slowly curling up to your seat when you're ready. And again, you could take your blanket and your props to the side, and we come to a posture for the hips. So in my sequence, I have a swan pose, keeping the right knee at the top of the mat and the right side of the mat, sending the left leg all the way back, and then making your adjustments. You could be sitting on that right buttock and coming forward. You could be elevating that right buttock and putting something underneath it. So that's one option. You can play with having the heel closer. It makes it more accessible and easier. And if you have that type of rotation in your bone structure and you can wiggle that foot more forward and it's not hurting the knee, and the sensation in the buttock is still kind of medium soft, then feel free to wiggle that. So I like to stay upright for a minute, but feel free to walk down onto your elbows and come to what we call a sleeping pigeon. So I leave that up to you. If this posture doesn't work for you, there's knee issues, then there's a few ways that you can start to kind of find your variation. So we did that, I think, last week. You could have, instead of taking the left leg back, you could have the left knee staying more forward and see if that takes some pressure away from the hip and the knee. You could move a little bit over towards that right knee. So playing with that. Ultimately, if that doesn't work either, then it's thread the needle on the back. That is an alternative. So lying onto your back once more, taking the right ankle over the left knee. All of those postures have the same target area. So we are not really focusing here on the shape, but I have an idea. So right buttock, outer thigh is where you want to feel it. And so we're adjusting the shape, we're adjusting the body. So however you can get to the target area without like hurting your knee or having too much intensity is you doing the posture and then settling in. And let's keep our focus then on that layer of intellect or the mental body, the mind, the feelings. And just simply notice, see if you can now have this practice. There's info, there's input coming in from 5 senses. And when we're not training the mind, it most likely is that it's the lower mind that is how do I say, manipulated and kind of ruled by the senses is what dictates our behavior, our likes and dislikes, is what really governs our choices. And so already if the practice already here by simply noticing the thoughts, noticing the content that's there, is a practice to move from the lower mind towards higher mind, from manas to what's called buddhi, being able to witness. It's the psychological self, the process that organizes experience. And obviously, through practice, we've noticed this connection. So when I'm able to slow my breath and relax my body, it has an effect on the mind. And vice versa, if the mind is caught on one track, if the mind is kind of contracted and either restless, then that has an effect on the breath, and that has an effect on how we hold the body. But we've laid a little bit of groundwork here. We've softened and soothed this body by giving it some rest, some attention, some breath. Maybe now we're better able to hold our thoughts a little bit more lightly. Another couple of breaths in this shape. And then obviously if you're on your back, feel free to just stay on the back and find your rebound there. If you're in this one pose, then you could either stretch to down dog is an option, or slide yourself back to child's pose, or come onto the belly, finding again a way to give a little bit of time for that right hip, right buttock, outer thigh to recover. So could be movement, could be stillness, but giving a moment, and then again just sense the body, the breath, the mind. What's arising? So now we already have those 3 layers. You can really sense the interconnectedness there. Our awareness moving from the crosses towards the more subtle. Slowly moving to take the opposite side, and again you can just choose the shape that works for you. So either stay on your back, come towards the pigeon or a variation of the pigeon. As I said, I like to stay upright for about a minute, but feel free to come to sleeping pigeon. Notice what's present. Part of the practice is really this willingness to see what's here, not resisted, not need to turn away, not needing to even right now make sense. Not needing to rationalize what's here. And now you have this prism, as I said, this prism of these different layers of experience that are present at the same time. The level of body, the level of breath, and energy, the level of thought and psychology, mind, thoughts, feelings, emotions. A little bit longer if you're staying here. Always an option to move out earlier. Soften outer body, soften breath body. Notice the effect that that has on the mental body. We can't really force the mind, but we can kind of make conditions for the mind to begin to settle. And it's when the mind begins to settle that we start to have more access to the wisdom body, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the next level to a more subtle layer. So translated sometimes like as a discriminating mind or discernment, wisdom. And then slowly again find your release, either again stay on the back or move into some gentle movement or stillness. Take your time, release, notice what shows up in the rebound. And then we're coming into a forward fold of your choice, as I often offer it. It could be a butterfly shape that still engages the hips. It could be legs forward, so we haven't really accessed the back of the legs in today's practice, so that's what I'm going to choose. But if you have another flavor in mind, then feel free to take that, so it's your choice. And as you come forward, Again, you know it, in a yin way. So finding and notice how here the layers are now starting to blend, right? You're gonna sense the body, and together with breath, it's that why the wisdom body, the discernment of not going too far, not going too deep type of a thing. So that's one of the simple ways of how we can look at that connection there. As we settle into the shape and soften. The wisdom body is beginning to reveal through direct experience. And what one of the things that it might reveal is, again, just showing that our kind of preoccupation with thought, identification with thought, is a cause of suffering. As we take something, our body and our thoughts, something that is by nature impermanent, constantly changing, and we're kind of trying to hold on to that. And so through practice, and again, yoga texts very much emphasize this, that it is through direct experience we're getting glimpses into our true nature, something that lies beyond mind, beyond body. And these practices that we're engaging in, we are using the body and the mind as a vehicle. So we are using the mind to go beyond the mind. So in this practice, we've been using our mind to move through, to move the awareness through these different layers. It is where the mind goes, is where the energy flows. So here is where you begin to have choice. When we slow down, when we are able to come out of the autopilot and notice, oh, my mind is stuck there. I have a choice here to reroute the mind, maybe invite it more into the body, more into the present. And then that's going to change how we feel, that's going to change our experience. And that's going to change possibly how we make choices, smaller and bigger choices, as we are starting to be informed. How could I say it? Informed by life itself, perhaps? By a larger field. Tapping into our own unique path, but that is connected to a larger network. Soften the physical body. Find a shape where that's possible, where there's no forcing or no agenda. Simply here. Soften the breath body. Allow it to flow freely through this shape. connecting to that vital life force that really animates the whole being. Letting the mind stay focused. Letting yourself notice the movements in the mind, letting yourself direct the mind to the present moment, to this, through the body, through the felt sense, to here and now. And then from there, the wisdom body begins to reveal insight directly. And we slowly release. We release onto the back and take your time. Take your time. You might want to have all of your Shavasana stuff with you. We'll take twist on the back. But first we release this shape. So we stayed a little bit longer. So let yourself just find ground. Find ground. And if you feel like keeping the legs straight is uncomfortable for your back, then keep them bent and take the constructive rest that allows the pelvis to tilt, and maybe for some backs it feels much more easeful. And melt now here the inner body, softening the outer body, releasing. And as we're connecting to a larger sense, it's in no way denying the physical body. It includes it. It's no way in kind of denying the thoughts. It's able to hold your experience. Let there be maybe a sense of widening or opening. And we'll finish with a simple twist. Unless you have a different twist in mind, then please feel free to take what works. I'm going to simply draw my thighs in and drop the knees over to the right. If you have your blanket or cushion handy, you could bolster that twist by placing something between your knees and sending your left arm out. So we'll take about 2 minutes in the twist, moving through those layers as you organize the physical body into the shape, as you connect to the breath body, the energy body, to feel into that subtle or not so subtle movement internally within the stillness. The shape is changing, the breath is moving. Your mind travels with the breath into the body, into different parts of the body, bringing aliveness, awakening and releasing tension. And as we set conditions, there might be some insights that arise. Something that's always been there, we simply recognize, we realize as we become still, as we, so to speak, even we can think of it as cleansing these different layers of some clunk and clutter that obstructs the clear view. But that realization can never be a reaching after something, because it's always here. So it's a recognition, a remembering, if you will. Take your time, travel through the center, pause at the center, square the hips. Take a moment here, feel the ground, feel the breath, and sense also some space within, around, above, below, and then taking the twist to the opposite side. And then there's that innermost layer called bliss body, Anandamaya Kosha, the sheath of bliss. A sense of deep contentment, a permeability, a sense of spaciousness, vastness, openness. As I said, no matter what the situation or circumstance of our personal, individual life may be, this blissful sheath is always present. Its existence is not dependent on needing to feel good. It's not lessened by sorrow or pain. It's the most subtle expression of awareness. It's closest to consciousness itself, an open space, awake and alive, a sense of presence, a sense of wholeness. Then take your time as you begin to bring your feet back to the ground, coming and rolling onto your back. Maybe you pause with the feet on the ground again for a couple of breaths to sense the lower back, to bring the hips back so you feel the hips underneath your shoulders. And slowly our next shape is Shavasana shape, or relaxation shape. Take your time to set it up comfortably. And we have a good 6-7 minutes. I want to guide you a little bit again as we move into it. And then, yeah, if you want to stay longer, then feel free to stay longer. So arrange your physical body. So as I said, we can lay the conditions for these deeper layers to become more to the foreground for us to sense them. So again, that physical comfort for our nervous system to be settled, for us to feel safe and warm are those conditions. Maybe something to cover the eyes that helps to take some stimulation away that comes in through this sense that often draws us out of ourselves. And feel that outer layer, the physical body, sense its comfort, sense its willingness to rest here, to settle here. And if anything needs to shift or change, then mindfully you do that. Let there be this sense of shifting from doing to being, from thinking to feeling and sensing. And see how much it is possible to drop into this effortless state of being. This place of where we're not grasping for experience. And is there a way, as again we've been bringing the mind, we're using the mind to enter the body, we're using the mind, allowing the mind to kind of merge and melt into the energy body. As you feel the sense of aliveness in the body, the sense of presence in the body, sense of life pulsing through this shape. Sense of dropping, sense of melting and sinking as slowly the physical body, the form, begins to lose its shape. And settling into this very silent source of your being. The innermost core. The very essence. So gradually allow for a deeper breath to come in and to sense it widening and changing the shape of the body. Feel the qualities it brings in on the inhale, that openness, and then sense also the qualities that are there when you empty, and relaxation. And just see if you want to bring a little bit of movement in, bring some movement into your fingers and toes. And if you feel like you want to move a little bit more, stretch on the ground or roll on your back. Just make this transition yours. And feel that there's no rush. So again, if you want to stay longer, see if you can just zone my voice out and stay as you are. If you want to finish the session together, eventually you'll roll over to one side and slowly curl up to your seat. Again, no rush with that. And I'll seal the session with one Om that you're welcome to sing with, or simply receiving that, drawing the palms together, emptying the breath out, and then drawing in the breath and singing. Thank you so much for joining.